Okay, you're all set.
Great. Welcome everybody to the January 21st special meeting of the Parks and Recs Commission to discuss the proposal from Waveney Life Network. First, we will start with a roll call of the Parking Commission members. I'll start George Bennington, then we'll go, just yell out your name.
Hank Green.
Thank you.
Brittany Singer.
Thanks, Brittany.
Doug Murphy.
Thanks, Doug.
Melanie Hearn.
Thank you.
Tim Klimple.
Thanks, Tim.
Keith Ritchie.
Keith Ritchie. Okay.
George, David's here too.
Great. There's David. How are you, David? David, can you just say your name?
His audio may not be on yet.
David? I can text him as well. Turn your audio on. David? He's blocked. Can you hear us? He can hear us though, so that's okay. All right, so without further ado, it is 7:03. I would like to turn this over to Russ Barksdale, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Waveney Life Network, to discuss what they would like from Parks and Rec. Russ, all yours.
George, Mr. Chairman, thank you, John. Great seeing everyone, and thank you again on behalf of our organization for putting this special meeting together. Next week, we'll be going to Inland Wetlands Commission. We'll also be going to P&Z Commission on the 27th and 28th, respectively. And I'd like to talk a little bit about our project quickly, give you some insight into what we're developing. Most of you know Leo Carl. He's our chairman, sits on our board, chairman of our strategic planning committee, and we have Mike Luckett joining us as well, who's head of our special projects and construction. So if I can share my screen, Mr. Chairman, if that's okay.
Certainly.
Okay. Can everyone see that fine?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Thanks. So to give you just an aerial view of existing conditions, this is our village, our assisted living facility. This is Farm Road. This is Old Stanford. We have about 12 acres. Most of it is wetlands, or we wouldn't be having this discussion. We'd be able to find some parking in that area. This is our existing care center and our aerial view of kind of our parking lot. This gives you an idea of our expansion project that we're looking to do, which is a 30-bed short-term rehab unit. Right now, we are fully occupied, both assisted living and the care center. So we really feel that we need to add 30 beds in order to accept the demand that we have for our services. Our parking, we're looking to stage during construction, if you will. This would be phase one to create 2 new entrances onto our campus, this being the care center, this being assisted living coming through Main Street. Our final design would look something like this, a nice 2-3 healing gardens, interior spaces here for Claire's Garden for assisted living, and this being the new structure with a new single main entrance. And most importantly, we'd be adding additional parking to our site of about 30 additional spaces to get us to 175. This is what the new front of the building will look like as you're coming off of Farm Road onto our campus. Why are we expanding? I mentioned the demand for our services. We only have 12 private rooms for short-term rehab. We'd be adding 30 additional private rooms for our short-term rehab. Those are very profitable. They will help us in Waveny's ability to support our nonprofit mission and our charity care that we provide to the town when seniors nest egg, when their retirement has waned. Staging our parking is really why we're meeting today. We should be 175 parking spaces once completed. We will need 75 peak off-site parking. The schools have already given us written permission. When the schools are closed, we can use their parking spaces for those 75 spots. We're seeking approval from Park and Rec. We understand there may be a couple days where it won't work, and we'll look at other strategies for that. But we're looking to Park and Rec to see if we can, during that 2-year construction period, provide up to 75 parking spaces off-site Monday through Friday. We will maintain the parking spaces in terms of snow, what other maintenance that needs to be done. We'll provide a hold harmless clauses and agreements between us and the town, and we'll also provide insurance coverages for any of our cars that are on the town's property. Again, this would be for our staff only for day and evening shift, and we would use our existing buses that we have to transport people, staff, off and on campus during that time. We want to make it easily accessible to our families, to our visitors. So we want to use our parking that is there for that purpose. And then, as we saw before on the previous slides, to have those staging areas for our construction workers. So I hope I went over, George. I'm sorry, it's been 6 minutes. I tried to keep it to 5 as I'd agreed to before. I'm happy to go back through it, but I wanted to give everyone just a visualization of what it's going to look like, what the new campus is going to look like, why we need it so dramatically. For those of you in town, John, for our board, for members that work in town, people that live in town, they know we have people that have to stay in the hospital longer, waiting for us to get an open bed. They delay surgery on occasion, waiting for us to get an open bed. And too often they have to choose their second or third choice for short-term rehab just because we don't have a bed available. So our board has committed to this project. We're hoping that the town will get behind it and support us through P&Z and inland wetland next week. And we're reaching out to you, your commission, Park and Rec, to see what we can do together collaboratively. The school has already stepped up for us to use their parking spaces, and we're asking humbly to get your support during those other periods of time for parking. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Or Leo, did you want to add anything more to
Russ,
this?
if I can just add, I think 2 data points. One, you said the offsite parking would be for employees only. It's actually would be some construction workers and Waveney employees. The construction zone will have some parking for construction workers, but there might need to be some offsite. And the timing of this, we're going before inland wetlands and P&Z next week. We believe and are hopeful that we'll have approvals from those bodies within 30 to 60, 90 days max, but hopefully 60. And then there'll be a period of time of drawing up actual construction documents and bidding and everything. So actual timeline right now for start of construction, it would look like late Q4 of this year, potentially, or early 2026, where we would start to need parking. And it will run, construction will run for approximately 24 to 27 months. So late 2027, early 2028 would be the time frame when this would wind up. It's a temporary ask for that period of time. And as Russ said, we'd cover all the, any contingencies or liabilities, maintenance, et cetera.
Okay. Thank you, Leo. Are there any questions from members of the commission? Keith?
A couple. So specifically, where do you want to park? I thought I had understood it being the Benko Pool area, but obviously the Benko Pool area is in use for the summer. So
Yeah.
what happens then?
Ideally, that's what we're asking for. That Benko Pool Pavilion parking lot is it's got adequate space there. And it's, from what we can see, not utilized from post, say, Labor Day through pre-Memorial Day. And then this high school parking lot will be available to us from mid-June to mid to late August when school's out. There is a few weeks, probably 2 to 3 weeks on both sides where we're going to have to make alternative considerations potentially. I don't know if there's any other space inside Waveney footprint that could work,
Well,
but
where the ice rink is, when the ice rink isn't there, there's a bunch of spots there that are
so
usually empty, except for there's a lot of, in case there's a lot of baseball games going on. But
I think for the purposes of tonight, the ask, which kind of P&Z prodded us to try to come to them next week to their meeting with a plan for how we would handle offsite parking. And we felt like if we could at least get an agreement around the pool pavilion parking lot in off season when it's not in use, that would be very helpful to the application. So
Okay.
Because that wasn't stated in the slides, but that is your ask. For the
Russ, anything?
pavilion parking, or is it more like you want us to kind of provide the 75 spots and with kind of a
No,
an
Keith, I
understanding
think,
that it will be
you
the
know,
Benko Pool.
with the, and I'm sorry if I wasn't clear on that. I know I went pretty quick through the presentation, but the school has stepped up, and anytime the school is not in session, we can use the school parking lots. They've already given us permission. So we're talking about when the school is in session, when Steve Benko Pool would be utilized, then those periods of time we would have to find alternative spaces. And we would look at other, as Leo said, a week here, a week there. We'll work it out at that point in time. But for the majority of that period during the school year when school is in session and Benko Pool is not being utilized, we're asking specifically if we can utilize Benko Pool for those days.
Right. And in the proposal we sent out on Monday, there's 3 or 4 bullet points in the agenda that stipulates the pool, just as Russ described during the off season.
No, I get it, but it just seems to me there's a few days out there when there's I don't know if I want to call it an overlap or no lap, but there's plenty of alternatives in terms of Lapham. A lot of times has excess parking. Again, there's the parking where the ice rink is. So I have no objection.
We'd be open to your support or help in those overlap periods when they're both the pool pavilion, the pool parking is in use and the school's still in session. We're going to be scrambling to find some solutions, but we think that at least we'd have the bulk of the year covered with the off-season pool parking lot and the summer months at the high school. So if there's other solutions we could talk about now or in the future coming months, we can brainstorm over that, but that would be great.
I think that the Waveney Pool parking lots makes a lot of sense because it's kind of tucked away from all the other activities. I would definitely I would love to plan more around those weeks where we have some conflicting issues with the pool or the high school, because my concern is a lot of, youth sports taking place in the park. Kids are running around, there's not really clear fences. It's, some events can be very crowded. So we would need to look at exactly, which are those weeks and see which are the activities, the sports taking place, and then maybe do, more concrete planning around those weeks. But, the bulk of the time, the Benko Pool parking lot is what you need. I think I agree it's ideal, given that it's a bit tucked away from everything else. It's just one point of entry and exit. So I'm just thinking of people that are going to use the parking lot, but they're not used to coming and going with their cars when there's a lot of kids running around, right? I mean, they just come to work. They usually use, the regular parking. There could be times where the things get quite busy. And the other thing I want to say is, maybe John can provide more color, is at some point this summer, there's going to be some work done in this new playground area. There could be some construction and some vehicles coming. Not sure if there's going to be some work done on the parking lot next to Waveney House. And so maybe the place where the ice rink is now might not be ideal, but again, John would know more. I just think that we could plan more on those specific weeks, but in general, I think that the proposal so far makes sense.
Yeah, we definitely can work with, trying to figure out other locations and stuff like that for the short term.
Right. Hank, you have a question?
Yes, two questions. One, Dr. Barksdale, always Monday through Friday? Never
Yes.
Saturday?
Yeah, we will not need anything on the weekends, and we'll not need anything at night. So it'll just be the shift in the day and the evening.
Okay. And the second question is, John, I wanted to ask you, John Howe, I wanted to ask you, do you have any concerns that this may impinge on the regular use of the park?
The only thing that not as far as using the park, because like somebody said, the entrance would be coming off Lapham Road. People aren't going to be driving through the park. Maybe a few of them will to get there, but in general, most people will come in from Lapham Road. We do Christmas tree recycling there, but I think there's a few places we can look at doing that for the few weeks that happens. So I think we can easily reschedule that someplace else.
Okay, thank you.
Jump in here, Gene Goodman. I know, speaking with John Howe, that I believe that what you call the pool, and I'm honored you call it the pool parking lot. I'm sorry, the ice rink parking lot. But from speaking to John Howe and my own experience there, I believe it's fairly busy in the spring and the summer and the fall. And I doubt that it would take 75 cars either. Any comments, John?
It definitely wouldn't take 75 cars at the same times that they'd be looking for the overflow. I don't think that would be the best place to go. But that I think we have time to work on, but I think it's important that if this is approved by the commission, that we do that tonight so that they can notify wetlands and P&Z that they have a solution.
I don't want to overcomplicate those few weeks where there's the overlap, I'll call it. And I think we're prepared to explore. It may mean a little more inconvenience and distance. There's some churches in town that have parking available. It would just make the shuttle bus a longer trip for Waveney. And if anytime we can make it more economical in terms of time and distance, the better. But both the pool parking lot and the high school parking lot are ideal because they're literally right around the corner from the facility. So, yeah.
I just have one thing. Dave Shea, who's unfortunately, he can hear us and see us, but he can't join us. He said he basically is in favor, but in terms of due diligence on promises that, in terms of the type of contracts that are binding, I think obviously in terms of, we're not looking for a contract for these 75 spaces, but in case, let's say this project runs past a couple of years or there's some unforeseen obstacles, I guess obviously that would be up to, at least insofar as the parking and the parks, would be up to John to handle that coming back to us. But is there any written agreement that's going to place here between the town and Russ?
No, I mean, the written agreement that we would have, that we provide you, would be for the hold harmless to maintain the site, and it would be strictly to the days that, if you empower John George, that we work with John. John tells us, here's the calendar. These are the dates that it's available. When it's not available, then as Leo said, we will find other parking spots. There'll be longer commute for our buses, our vans to commute our employees and some workers on. But that'll be on us. That'll be our responsibility to work around that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Russ. Are there any other questions from members of the commission?
George, I was just going to ask, it sounds like this has basically been answered, but just the idea that 75 spots over 2 years, are we confident that this doesn't risk having a major impact on all of the activities that go on? Banco Pool, it sounds like, is kind of the favorite spot for the off season. But like as Melly pointed out, we've got sports, flag football, softball, baseball that go on the other parking areas of Waveney. So just thinking this through as on behalf of everyone, that this isn't something that's at risk of becoming a major impact, these 75 parking spots over 2 years. Sounds like we're comfortable that that's not going to be the case. I just want to make sure that we're not like walking into a problem like that for a long time.
John, do you want to answer that? Or
Yeah, as far as those 75 spots, as long as we limit it to the pool parking lot, that won't be a problem at all. If all of a sudden people are parking all over and the shuttle bus made 4 stops, yes, that could be a big issue, but that's not what they're looking for and not what you're approving. So you'd be approving just the pool parking lot.
And we want to commit to everyone, the commission, that, we work in town, we live in town, this is our town, this is our community. I serve as a commissioner, Health and Human Services. We're going to be working collaboratively with you. And if there's a special event that needs to take place or anything of that nature, then John and I will work together and we will find alternate parking for those dates and times. So, we want, if we need to put that in contractual agreement or just know, you have our recorded word for that. We want to be flexible and we're so appreciative for the opportunity, but we're going to work around what is best for our town and what's best for our parks.
yeah.
Hey, John, I just have a quick question. How many actual spots are there in that parking lot?
I was waiting for somebody to ask that. I don't have the email in front where I actually went out there and counted them, but there's over 75 spots.
I think well over.
Well over.
Would we designate there 75 or
No,
leave some up for the public, or?
in general, we rope off the parking lot in
Okay.
the off season. We don't plow it. That's why they've said they'll assume the plowing maintenance. So it becomes a non-use parking lot except for special events. And most of those are on weekends. So I don't foresee any problems, but as Russ said, the few exceptions, I think we can easily work out.
Yeah. Okay. I want to also compliment Russ on the excellent job he's done in socializing this project and really gaining a lot of grassroots support. We started these conversations back in October. That was the first one I, learned of the project and what they were needed. And so compliments to him and his staff and what the job they're doing in bringing this forward. Are there any other questions from members of the commission?
Oh, just real quick, I'm not sure. So maybe I'll just ask for George or John. In terms of the hold harmless contract, is that something that it's mentioned in the notes that we were provided with, and it's been part of the conversation? Is that something that from a Parks and Rec Commission we need to review or discuss? Or is that something that another body in town will discuss?
That will be, that will be taken care of with the town lawyers in the first selectman's office.
Okay, thanks.
So,
Yep. Good question. Very good question. Are there any other questions or comments? All right. Without further ado, we'll go to a vote. The motion is to allow the Waveney Life Network to use approximately 75 spots in the Benko Pool area, as well as potentially other designated areas approved by John Howe. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Keith, thank you. Keith, motion. Is there a second?
Brittany.
Brittany, thank you. Okay, so how we do this on a special meeting is I have to do a roll call vote, okay? And when I call your name, say either yes or no, or abstain. So Hank, let's start with you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Hank. Keith,
Yes.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Melanie,
Yes.
George, yes. Doug,
Yes.
Brittany,
Yes.
David Shea is on, he can't, but he did, and he voted yes, okay? Tim
Yes.
and Jean,
Yes.
okay, so, any noes, any abstentions? Motion carries. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Russ, excellent job.
So
And
thank
we'll-
all of you, and you have our commitment to work with John in the committee to make sure this is seamless for our town and our parks. So thank you again.
Great.
Thank you. Have a
Thank you,
great
guys.
night.
Good job.
Thanks, everyone.
Good
I'll
night.
just say, this is one
you
of those
need-
things that makes New Canaan special, because groups that work together for the common good can get together and figure things out. So thank you for all your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you.
Yeah.
George, you just
Thanks.
need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay, motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, Keith, thank you. Second? All right. I can only see, okay.
Doug was in there, number.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Bye.
Bye.
Aye, okay.
Thank
we
you.
good?
Yep.
Thanks,
we're all
George.
good.
Thank you, guys.
All
Take
right.
care.
Good night.
Have a good night.